Alright, so we've torqued down this receiver now, and we can see that we're getting pretty close to the lines that we made, just as a quick index. Nothing fancy, nothing real accurate, just giving us a rough idea. I threw on a gas tube and a front sight, so at least now we can get back here and we can at least see what we're talking about, and we can see already that that receiver needs to go a little bit further. Our front sight's nice straight up and down. Our receiver, you can see it still needs to be torqued a little bit. Now I haven't tightened anything with a wrench yet, so I think once I tighten everything with a wrench we're going to be just fine, but I'll double check that. That's what we're going to do now. We're going to lock everything down really good and tighten that receiver on with a wrench. Like I say, it's only hand tightened right now, so it's going to torque another degree or two, so I'm sure we're going to be about in the right spot, but I'll get right back to you. Alright, so we've put that front gas tube and sight on, and we've torqued the barrel down tight with a wrench. Now let's just have a look and see how we're lining up now. Okay, we can see now that that front sight and the receiver aren't quite in line with each other. Now, there's another method that some guys use, and I'm going to show it to you right now, where you take some nice machine parallel bars, put one on the flat of the receiver at the back there, put one at the flat, take the front sight off, and put that on the flat where the front sight is on the gas tube. And supposedly this is another way, make sure that sits on there nice and level. Supposedly this is another way to check the alignment of the barrel to the receiver, and I look down and you can see the two of them don't quite line up with each other. They don't quite line up with each other. And that's indicated too just by eyeballing it before I put those parallel bars on there. So that system may be accurate for checking. I'm not really sure, but that's one of the ways I've heard to check barrel alignment on a Garand. So anyway, I'm going to torque that receiver on just a little bit more, get another degree, and we should be right on the money. Alright, so we've torqued that barrel down a little bit more, and just by eyeball, I personally say that that is so close. We might be out by a degree, maybe, but that's awful close. I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty critical that this be in the right spot for obvious reasons, but I'm going to check it now with these parallels that are supposed to be a really good way of doing it. We'll put one parallel on there, like that, on that flat. Very good. Slide the front sight off, and we'll get our other parallel and put it on that flat of the front sight. Okay, I like it. Looks good. Now let's just eyeball that and see what those two look like. It's pretty damn close, but I'd still say I'm out by, geez, maybe a degree, not even a degree, just a smite, just a little tiny bit. I'm just going to torque that. We're so close, but it is out by just a hair. So I'm going to torque that receiver one more little bit. You can see this, we were awful close there. So that system may work pretty good. I don't know. I've heard of it before, but it's the first time I've actually tried it. Anyway, I'm going to torque that receiver on just ever so slightly bit more. Alright, and that should do it. Alright, so we gave her one more little torque, and you'll see now, once again, I mean, you can see that front sight. Everything, alignment looks just beautiful. Everything looks right on the money. No problem. Lines right up with that front sight. Gorgeous. Now I'm going to put these parallels on again and just see how they look. What do they tell us? So, one back here. Make sure you wipe it. You don't want to have any debris on the bottom of it. Okay. Now how do they look? Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Right on the money. I like that. That looks great. Excellent. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we've got the barrel timed. We know the barrel's in the right spot. So that's your first step. So once you're happy with that, you got the barrel in the right spot, then we've got to check our headspace and see what we've got. Because a new barrel is always, well, almost always, built undersized, so that the chamber, this chamber is going to be a little bit smaller than it actually needs to be, and it will fit to this particular rifle and this particular bolt and this particular receiver, and it'll all match to this particular gun. So I'm going to grab my headspace gauges and put the bolt in, and we'll see where we're at. Alright, we've put the bolt in for now. Once again, whenever you do this, whenever you put a bolt in and you're checking headspace, always try to remove the extractor and the firing pin and all the miscellaneous odds and ends, because they could easily interfere with the actual measurement. So strip the bolt down, and now I've got myself a where is it? Got myself a go gauge, 308 Winchester. So we can get that a little closer. Okay, 308 Winchester Go. So we've got a go gauge here. We're going to see if the bolt closes on a go gauge. Once again, always make sure your bore is clean, everything's clean. Make sure the headspace is clean, the headspace gauge is clean, no dust, dirt, debris, nothing. Everything's got to be clean. Put your headspace gauge in your chamber. Make sure it's in there nice. Bring your bolt down. Okay, you can see that the bolt doesn't. We still got almost a quarter inch of gap. You can see the gap in here. So the bolt just not closing. It just won't come down, and that's good. That tells us our chamber's a little small. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to ream that. We'll take the bolt back out again, and we're going to ream that. Alright, so we're going to get that bolt out of there, and then we're going to ream that chamber using our reamer. Get that headspace gauge out of there, and we'll ream that chamber, and we'll just keep trying our bolt in until we get that to fit. Now what we're using, I talked about it a little bit earlier today. What I'm using is a nice pull-through reamer that we put in the chamber, and we pull it from the front. We get a nice long rod that goes up the barrel, and we're going to pull her from the front, and as soon as that bolt drops in, we're going to be good to go. So I'll get that set up, and I'll do a little cutting, and we'll see where we are at that point. Alright, so we've got our pull-through reamer in there. It's got a threaded rod that attaches to the end of it. You slide it up through the barrel, and you put a tap handle on the end. There's a little flat ground on that threaded rod. So you put a tap handle on the end, so you got something to turn with. It's a left-hand cut too, so it cuts clockwise, which is different than most cutters. Most cutters are counterclockwise. Well, counterclockwise from this end where it's cutting, but most cutters are clockwise. So be careful. Make sure you know that. Now, I've been cutting a little bit. You remember how big the gap used to be? We used to have quite a bit of gap there. So now it's coming down. It's almost. There's very little space in there anymore. Actually, I'm going to turn this receiver a little bit so we can get better lighting in there. I'll be right back. Alright, there you can see what I'm talking about. If you remember correctly, we had almost a quarter-inch gap right here. So now we're down to about 1/8 of an inch. So just won't quite close on a go gauge yet, and that's good. It's getting close, but it's not quite right on the money. And all I do is I put a little bit of finger pressure. You can see if I can hold the camera and do this at the same time. You might be able to actually see as I turn. Watch that gap. I'm putting just a little bit of pressure with my finger, not very much, and I'm going to turn the cutter. I'm turning the cutter right now, and each time I turn, you see the bolt going down? See the bolt? The gap's getting smaller as I'm cutting, getting smaller, cutting. Just go easy, don't get too carried away. Boom. Bolt's closed. Done. No more. That's it. We should have perfect headspace. So now I'm going to pull the bolt out. I'm going to take all my reamer stuff apart, put a headspace gauge in there, and we'll see what she looks like. But I think we have some beautiful headspace now on this new barrel. Anyway, I'll be back. I just wanted to show you as I'm pulling this reamer out. It's still attached to the threaded rod. But I just wanted to show you. See all the meat it took out of there? See all the filings and shavings on the on that cutter? That cutter is extremely sharp. But see all those filings it took out of there? So it cuts pretty fast, so it doesn't take much pressure, and it doesn't really take too many turns. So you just got to be careful. Don't take too much. Alright, I'm going to get this apart and see how she headspaces. Alright, so we've taken all the reamer and everything apart, taken all that out, and I put the go gauge back into the chamber. Now make sure, obviously, that you blow all the chips out of the chamber and blow the chips off of everything, blow the chips off the end of the bolt. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Put your headspace gauge in, that's the go gauge. Bring your bolt closes nice and tight. She's nice and tight. Just perfect. So that's going to have real good, getting a lot of years of service out of this barrel. Now I'm going to pull that headspace gauge out of there, the go gauge, and I'm going to put a no-go gauge in, just for the hell of it. So here's my, obviously you see the red stripe on the back and the green stripe on the back, so one's go and one's no-go. One's stop and one's go. Pretty neat, eh? So anyway, this is our 308 Winchester no-go. So we will get that in there and see what. Now the bolt shouldn't close, shouldn't even come close to closing on that. And it doesn't. Look at how much gap we got. We got a good, Christ, over 1/8 of an inch gap. Almost 3/8 of an inch gap. So obviously that's really good now. Be a long time. A lot of shots can get fired through this one before we ever got to worry about excessive headspace. So anyway, there's a 308 barrel installed on this Garand. It's timed properly. It's chambered properly. So that part of it's all done. We're going to go ahead and start on some other parts of this gun. We're still waiting on parts, so we can't quite complete this project, but at least we can keep plugging away as the parts come in. So I'll keep you posted as we move along. Thanks.